Hello, hello, my lovely justice warriors. How are you today? Let's get it on live chat off of that top chat that screwed me up yesterday. Let's see if anybody comes in to chat with me. In the meantime, I'll just get started with the regular standard stuff, clean my glasses and show you the thumb, ask you to hit it, hit that like button. S'il vous plaît. Oh, I have two people watching. Can you hear me? Oh, wait. Good thing I ask that all the time, huh? Hey, Sherry, how are you, my dear? Can you hear me better now? I think it's all plugged in, but I had it like down by the floor. That was ridiculous. It's a good thing I've gotten into the habit of saying, "Can you hear me?" and then doing my little check. Let's see. Fred Field, hola, ¿cómo estás? Muy bien, ¿y tú? So let's talk about some of the basic stuff right now. My goodness, what a day. We've got the freezing cold in the Midwest and the East Coast, like really bitter cold. It got down to 7 last night, and it was 7 this morning when the kids had to go to school. They often will do like a 2-hour delay when it's that cold, but there's been it's Thursday, and I think there was like the snow day Monday, snow day Tuesday, 2-hour delay yesterday, so they were trying to avoid it another day. I'm good, you're good, can hear you. Getting snow here in Oklahoma. So sad for the freaking fires in Los Angeles, you guys. I grew up in LA from the time I was about the first time I visited there, I think I was 6, 5 or 6. But that was just like a long summer visit. Then when I was 8, we moved there and we stayed there mostly until I was about 15, 14. Mostly, we bounced back and forth coast to coast, but we started settling down. My crazy dad, who had custody of us, he started settling down in first like Beverly Hills and then Malibu. I've told you guys about that. I'm not bragging. We weren't even close to wealthy. It was like he was inventing slums in Beverly Hills and slums in Malibu that didn't exist, but it's the ghetto of your mind. So if there's a will, there's a way. So anyway, so we lived in Malibu for many years. I was at Point Dume Elementary School in 5th grade for half of 6th grade, Malibu Park Junior High School for 7th, 8th, and 9th. And then moved to Ohio for 10th and 11th and 12th and my first couple years of college, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, my point is that I've been through a lot of California fires. You pretty much have your fire season every fall when things are all dry. And those damn Santa Ana winds, you just can't imagine if you've never been in Santa Ana winds. They are evil. They're winds like, I just don't even know how to describe them. Usually in the range of 60 to 70 miles an hour. They're awful. And then when you have a fire, it's a lost cause. There's nothing you can do except run. So very sad. I think I hear my cat on the other side of this window. Let me tell my kid. Hold on. Hey, Bug.
Yeah.
Are you able to let Mittens in? I think he's outside my window.
Are you sure? I thought he was in my room.
Maybe one of the cats is on the, because they're making that noise. Thanks. All right. Maybe not Mittens. He might not be the guilty party, but we've got Mittens, Lizzie, and Nala. So probably not Lizzie. Lizzie's the old lady cat that you see in a lot of my yoga videos. She's like, how old? 15. And then, but she's doing really well. And then Nala is like a doppelganger of Lizzie, except that she's only 4 years old. We got Nala and Mittens during COVID, and their siblings. Mittens is like over 20 pounds. He's like this wide. He's like Garfield. And then Nala is probably 9 pounds soaking wet. Like she's teeny tiny. And then Lizzie is probably like 7 pounds, itty bitty. So Mittens, who's Nala's brother, is bigger than the two of them put together. And then we have our little puppy dog that's 10 years old. Or not, maybe she's like 8. The big dog, Coco, is about 10. And she's doing well. The one who has had the cancer, we're really lucky with her right now. And then the little dog, the crazy one, Mookie, is probably about 8. Anyway, you guys, you know how much I love my pets. We only have 5. We had another dog who passed away New Year's a couple of years ago, had an autoimmune disease, and that was really sad. Luna was a rescue, and we had a good solid 18 months with her. So we love our pets. You guys have pets, Sherry and Fred? You know, pets really do bring up the quality of life and the life expectancy, especially for single people. And what else? Fires have done so much damage already. I know. So I don't want to complain about how cold I am or how cold it is here, because we're the lucky ones, huh? Let's see if this is gonna stay put. We really are the lucky ones. You know, people in California think that they're so lucky to be living in California, and that might be true some days of the year. Not true during Santa Ana's, and certainly not true during the fires. And then you've got the floods. I mean, it's just a whole lot of crazy. So here's the like button. Billy, darling, hello. Been watching the news. You're in Northern California, right? So you're safe from those fires. I survived many Santa Ana wind fires, and Malibu always gets hit hard because it's like country. You know, it's very rural, actually, surrounded by mountains and brush, and it gets really dry. What's shocking is that Pacific Palisades is toast. Pacific Palisades is very urban. It's unbelievable that it got hit. And I know of course, there's always going to be conspiracy theories on the interwebs. Fire is unpredictable. It's not the season for fire, but that doesn't really mean anything, especially, you know, people are probably trying to blame the radical right. And yeah, California for being dry. And blame Gavin Newsom or Biden or anybody. Elon, not even Elon. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. I mean, if there was anybody behind it, that would be insane. I know that there have been wildfires like the one up there in Paradise, Billy, that may well have been something similar to the Lahaina fires. And I know people have been drawing parallels between this and the Lahaina fires. And I just want to hold off on any of that. You know, we can't jump the gun and start speculating about all kinds of crazy stuff. Like there's too much real crazy stuff going on that we need to discuss. So let's get started with that. Please make sure you're still subscribed if you are subscribed. And if you're not, consider doing it. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like it, and turn on your notification bell to ring. Here we've got Tranquility Central. So happy to have my little Scrabble thing again. And for anybody who doesn't remember, the whole reason why I bought it, other than that it's just silly and adorable and meaningful, is that this eye is upside down. So I wasn't going to buy it, even though it was only $5. I was like, it's cute, but I don't need it. I like to simplify. But then I noticed that eye being upside down, and I was like, okay, I have to buy it. I must have it. And I like joking around like the Seinfeld episode, Serenity Now, Tranquility Now. So, yeah. I like to try to be funny. I like to try to watch a lot of funny stuff. All this stuff that we're paying attention to in true crime and politics is heartbreaking and tragic. And I feel like it's important to pay attention to it. And I feel like it's really important to take care of ourselves. So let me catch up with my friends here. Thank you guys so much for coming out into the streets of YouTube with me. And Fred has a pit bull. Fires have done so much damage already, and they're not contained. I don't know that they're even beginning to get contained, right? 2 dogs and 5 cats. Sherry, all right, good for you. Good for you. We only have 3 cats and 2 dogs. So, but then we have anywhere from 4 to 6 people living here, really 4 full time. And then my one daughter that's in graduate school, she'll come and stay with us when she's not too busy at school. And then the son who's in the military, he tried to stay with us for Christmas with his wife, and we did not have room for him. It was sad. I mean, we could have made room, but we were also squished already. You know, the kids just keep getting bigger. The house keeps getting smaller. It's like Alice in Wonderland. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So yeah, they stayed with his wife's family, which was good. That was nice. We wanted them to stay here and they wanted to stay here, but it worked out really well. And that son is doing the funeral for President Carter today, which I want to be sure to discuss. Wow. So it's a big day in the news with Carter's funeral and then with the fires in Southern California. Carter's funeral is, kind of sad. Anytime a person dies, it's sad, but it's also really a celebration of his life and what he's done for the world and what he did for our country, what he continues to do for our country, his legacy and his family and his foundation. And yeah, what a man, what an outstanding humanitarian. And his work with Habitat for Humanity, I actually thought he invented Habitat for Humanity, but I think he just made it really popular. I haven't looked it up to see when its inception was, but I'm pretty sure it was around, and then he got involved, and then it became the topic of much discussion. If anybody knows and wants to share, please do. So I'm going to get caught up here with you guys, and then I'm going to do my disclaimer if I remember when I'm done getting caught up. Billy Darling has been watching the news. Good to see you. Sherry says we had fires in the hills of San Francisco Bay Area not long ago also. Oof. Man, I was talking about the Oakland Bay Bridge damage and deaths that happened in that giant earthquake in 1989, a few days ago in one of my lives. And we moved to the Bay Area in 94. Late spring, early summer of 94. And I knew that it had happened before we moved there. And I thought that it was just like a year before, but it was 5 years before. So for anybody who doesn't know, it was a 7.0 on the Richter scale or 6.9, depending who you ask. And people that were crossing the Oakland Bay Bridge, which is a lot every day. I don't know the numbers, even though I'm a total stats nerd. I haven't Googled that one. It was at 5:03 in the afternoon, so it was rush hour. And there were probably 4,000 people that reported injuries, and I want to say 63 fatalities. But cars were falling. The bridge, a section of it broke and cars were falling into the bay. Cars were dangling that were then rescued. What a freaking nightmare. Were you living in the area back then, Billy Darling? Were you there that day? That is just the scariest crap in the world. It's suburbs in the Palisades. Thank you. Yeah, I say urban, meaning that when I lived in Malibu, everybody in Malibu thinks they're so much cooler than the rest of the world. Like nobody else in the world counts except maybe people in Europe and people in New York City. So, the Palisades was for nerds. And like I said, it was considered the city. And then everywhere else was considered the valley. Everywhere else was considered the valley, even if it was the furthest thing from it. So, but I was a tween too. So there's that. Probably not all the grown-ups thought that way. But thank you for clarifying because you are accurate. It's a suburb. I say urban because Malibu back then was just like very, very au natural. It's always been a place for the rich and famous. But back when I lived there in the late 70s, it was like a hideout for the rich and famous, and it was just kind of getting discovered. Um, and then now I kind of call it Hollywood by the Sea. It's changed a lot, but it sounds like it's gone. It sounds like it's like up in smoke, like Cheech and Chong. I can't imagine. I can't imagine. This is going to take a decade to clean up. Wow. I mean, at least they have resources because it's on the mainland as opposed to Lahaina, where you have to ship everything in as far as like building supplies. Um, Wheel of Death. Oh, Fred. You're reminding me about the two people that were like discovered in the JetBlue wheel compartment. Did you guys hear about that? Two deceased males stuck in the wheel compartment of a JetBlue flight. Was that the one that was from New York to Florida? I think that was. I think that was the one that was from New York to Florida, just like in the last day. But then there was another one that was from Chicago to Hawaii. Was it Chicago to Maui with one person similar? Like, I don't know if it was the wheel well or what, but that's not what you're referring to, though, Fred. Probably you're referring to the fires. Let's see. I have seen 0 blue cars in the Los Angeles fires. 0% contained as of this morning. I live in the country on 5 acres, Sherry. That's nice. I love 5 acre plots. Those are perfect. They're huge, but they're not like overwhelmingly huge, depending on what kind of equipment you have to take care of your property, or what kind of funds you have to pay people to take care of your property, or if you just let it go wild. But even if you let it go wild, you still got to do some stuff. But how nice. It can be isolating if you live alone, but with you don't really live alone with 5 cats and 2 dogs. I'm sure they are very happy campers. Now just here for about 4 years now. Malibu is gorgeous. NGL. I don't know what the NGL thing is, but that's all right. Malibu is gorgeous. I mean, it was all about the beach, the waves, the sunsets, surfing, body surfing. If and when you were really lucky, sometimes you'd see dolphins and porpoises and whales out in the water. I don't think we ever had any shark attacks when I was there. But there was like an 8th grader who passed away in a surfing accident when I was in like 6th grade. That was really sad. Really, really sad. Um, and then there was a friend of mine who passed away the south of France in a surfing accident. I almost want to say he was eaten by a shark, but I'm not sure. I'm not even sure if they have sharks in south of France. But he died in a surfing accident, and that was devastating to hear about. Um, surfing accident is what Luigi Mangione was allegedly injured in, right? Let's see. Was in LA last over a year ago. I haven't been in Los Angeles in over 20 years, but the last time I was there, we were living in Seattle. We flew to San Francisco. we had a rental car in San Francisco and we drove down to see friends in Los Angeles. And it was in the summer and it was really hot. And the day that we left San Francisco, it got to be about 100 degrees in San Francisco. It was like the hottest day in the history of that city. And the roads were literally melting because they're built of a different composition than roads that normally have that type of weather. So then when we're in Los Angeles on the way back, it was really hot, really dry. And a brush fire started in the median on Interstate 5 as we were headed north. And it was so hot. Like we already had the AC blasting and it was like barely doing anything. And then even though this little brush fire was small, man, did it heat up the car. And it was just so frightening. And I was just like, man, how does this happen? Again, this was probably 25 years ago, almost. I could look up that super hot summer in San Francisco, which I'm sure I will once we're done here. Maybe 24 years ago, we went to the J. Paul Getty Museum, which is probably burned up. So the old J. Paul Getty Museum is kind of between Pacific Palisades and Malibu, right at the base of, what's that area called? Sunset Mesa. So that's the old Getty Museum. And then they built a new J. Paul Getty Museum over there in the Hollywood Hills. And I never went to the old one because I lived there and, we thought it was for tourists because we were stupid kids. But when I went to the one in the Hollywood Hills, I was just like, can I just like rent an apartment here and just stay for the rest of my life? That place was amazing and free to go to because that's what the J. Paul Getty family was all about with their art collection. Free to take photographs of the art, free to even touch the art. Like really, they wanted to make art a part of the common people's lives, which I think is amazing. So you have to make reservations to go to the J. Paul Getty Museum, but you don't have to pay for parking or pay for admission. It's all free. And I think it's near the Griffith Observatory, at least not too far away from the Griffith Observatory where Rebel Without a Cause was filmed. Let's see. Yeah, so that was a long time ago. I haven't been to LA since then. And I loved LA. I did. I admit it. I absolutely loved it. I love Northern California too. I don't like crowds, so I don't mind being not in California. And I really love Ohio. I try not to tell people that because I don't want anyone to know that, Ohio's just like a hole in the wall. You don't want to waste your time here. Nothing to see over here, folks. Let's see. NGL, not going to lie. Thank you, Billy Darling. I knew it was something that I should know, because I'm sure everybody types that, but I'm just an old lady, so I'm out of it. Hello, Annabes, my dear. Have I not hit anybody's thing yet? Let me hit Billy Darling's Not Gonna Lie. And then Annabes. Hello, hello. Sunset and Surf View is on fire. Yeah, so Sunset Boulevard tees right into the Pacific Coast Highway, just north of the Pacific Palisades. And that's like the canyon that Laurel Canyon, right? That where all the bad stuff happens is right around there. Let me whack my glasses. But yeah, Brentwood and I mean, it's gorgeous, gorgeous area. And now, back then, Venice Beach was like the ghetto, but now Venice Beach is really fancy too. Getty Villa safe from the fires thus far. Hurrah. Yeah, so the Getty Villa, you probably know this. It's made of these beautiful chunks of white limestone that were square. They're about, I don't know, a foot, 18 inches, something like that. Every single one of them was shipped over from Italy. So didn't it take them like 20 years to build that new museum just because mostly the shipping over of all the bricks from Italy that were cut from the earth? I haven't been to LA since around 1992. Yeah, I think I was probably there around the year 2000-ish, somewhere around there. Probably right before that, probably like 1999. But I am really glad that the Getty Villa is safe because, yeah, they've got some, oh, they've got the Iris paintings, Van Gogh. They have a bunch of original Van Goghs. I think they had one of the Van Goghs that was caught up in the scandal of like the imitations, right? Somebody paid like $5 million for an imitation Van Gogh Iris. Crazy, crazy. All right, so I came on here to talk about the fires, to talk about Jimmy Carter, to talk about the crazy with the explosion of the Cybertruck in front of the Trump Hotel. I want to talk more about that. Yesterday, I discovered, I think I had looked it up right before I came on, or maybe it was the day before that, but I had it in my video yesterday. And I'm such a small channel. I want this to get out. I want more people to investigate it and explore it. The fact that not only did Mr. Jabbar, who had the truck that killed 14 or 15 people in New Orleans, and Matthew Livelsberg, if I'm saying his name right, the guy who blew up the Cybertruck allegedly. Not only did those two have Fort Bragg, being stationed in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, in common in their military careers, but also Brett Payne and Brent Kopaka from the Idaho 4 case. They both had been stationed at Fort Bragg, the 82nd Brigade. So those two from the Idaho 4, they were both paratroopers, as was Brett's older brother Kyle, but he didn't serve there, I don't think. He was and still is in like a brigade of a low number, like maybe 2 or something like that, in Fort Lewis, Tacoma, Washington. So those 4 soldiers all being at Fort Bragg, I know that there's been a lot of talk over the years about experiments from Fort Bragg, which is now called Fort Liberty. And I don't know why they changed their name. I don't know if it was because of having some negativity attached to the name Fort Bragg. If anybody does know and wants to share. But I think it's interesting. It might not mean anything. I want to underscore that because, I don't want to be trying to find conspiracies that aren't there. But I also don't want to overlook the obvious. That can be very dangerous when you overlook the obvious or when you're not aware of the obvious. So I was really glad to make that connection about the 82nd Brigade and Fort Bragg with all 4 of those individuals, because the thing in Vegas, the thing in Idaho, those really seem fishy. The thing in New Orleans, I don't know if it's that fishy. It's just messed up. Kylie's case, very fishy, very, very fishy. So let me do my disclaimer. Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. All of my videos are made for YouTube, and it's an entertainment platform. I thought I just dropped something, but I don't know. Yeah, there it is. It's just like a little piece of paper. Let me see if I can pick it up with my monkey toes. There. And I've got my phone in case I need to fub my friends here. It's 2:30 Thursday, January 9th. And Fort Hood. Oh, did I say Fort Bragg? Thank you so much, Hannah Bees. This is the problem when I'm like jumping all around on all these cases. Because Fort Bragg is the one in Texas, right? Isn't that the one with Vanessa Gullion? And I always hack up her name, and it's not that hard of a name. I just have trouble with it. Fort Bragg, Fort Hood. Let me look real quick. Thank you. I think you are correct. North Carolina. Oh, wait, no, it says Fort Bragg here. And it's now called Fort Liberty. So which one is, oh, Fort Hood? Are you talking about the one in Fort Lewis in Tacoma, Washington? Because that one kind of has two names because it's Air Force and Army, I think. So let's see, Fort Lewis, because I lived near there. And again, that was one that my granddad had been stationed at when they had one of their children. Fort Lewis, Fort Hood. Fort Hood is the one in Texas, right? Yeah, Fort Hood is the one in Texas. And then let me see if I can get Vanessa's last name because I always hack it and I apologize profusely for that. It's Guillen. Gillian. Ghislaine. Like I said, I know when I hear people say it, I'm like, oh, that sounds so easy, but I always screw it up. But I've been notorious for screwing up people's names my whole life, so I do apologize. It's not any disrespect to anybody. And if I was able to tell you guys my crazy name, I get my name hacked up every single day of my life. So maybe that's why. It's like to keep an even score. I have a pretty wild name and I would love to just be out with it. But you know, trolls. Someday, you know, I always say if my channel ever gets big, people will know my name. And I've shared it with a few people, but I don't really share it on my lives. I shared it in somebody's chat the other day, but then I deleted it from the chat. So if you missed it, which I'm sure you did, there were only like 4 of us in there. What else? So yeah, Fort Hood is the one in Texas. Fort Bragg is the one in North Carolina. And then what is that Fort Lewis in Tacoma? I was starting to look that up and because it has 2 names, I think. Fort Lewis. I started to type it in there and I didn't finish. Washington. It's McCord Air Force Base. Hold on, let me take this call real quick while I'm on with you guys. Hello? Uh-huh. That's perfect. Thank you kindly. We'll see you then. Great. All right. Bye-bye. I'm so glad I took that call. Let me make sure it's hung up. Yeah, I think it is. My phone has just been so wacky. And let me write it down so I don't forget. I was on a cancellation list for an appointment for tomorrow morning. So it opened up. We got the appointment. Woohoo! That's why I took the call, even though I'm live with you guys. Sorry to be so rude. Let's see. And Annabee says, I think it's important too. So McCord Air Force Base, Fort Lewis Army Base, those are one and the same. And they're north of Nisqually Valley, south of Tacoma. I forget the name of that town, but it's a really small town. There's a really good university there, Pacific Lutheran University, right? There's a lot of great colleges in Washington. There's a lot of great colleges in Ohio. Let's see. They call Ohio the brain drain because a lot of people come here to get their degrees, especially like OSU is so big. And then they take all their amazing knowledge somewhere else because they don't want to stay in the cornfields with the cows. Why? I don't know. I mean, I love the cornfields. I love the cows. So what is the name of the town where Fort Lewis is? So it's a joint base is what they call it. And So it's Pierce County, which is part of the Tacoma is in Pierce County. But how come I can't find the name of the town? Because I used to know, and it just drives me nuts when I don't know things that I used to know. Come on. It's only giving me Fort Lewis as the name of the town. Do I have to look at a map? Come on. Stupid. So it's southwest of Tacoma and Lakewood, Washington. Yes. And there's even another town because Lakewood is actually kind of nice. There's an even smaller town where it's even closer to that's really not nice at all. I was talking about Bremerton, Washington, and how it's an armpit, which is unfortunate. The town right outside of the base, the Army base there, Fort Lewis, is also an armpit. A lot of times military bases lend themselves to a transient nature with these young men moving in and out, and unfortunately substance abuse and the other type of trafficking too can be prevalent in those areas, and so it can be surrounded by a lot of crime. And that's not good for the young officers trying to stay out of trouble. But you take young men and you put them in a stressful situation like that and give them some PTSD, give them some money, give them a place to move to where they don't know anybody, and it can be a disaster, a master disaster, right? Oh, Jazz, LOL, you are a sweetheart. No worries. I pronounce her last name wrong too. It's just ridiculous because I completely mess it up, and it's a really easy last name. Vanessa Gillian. Is that it? Just Gillian? I know your name, Zena, right? Yes, you can call me Z. It starts with a Z, but it's not Zena, but that's close enough. Okay, now I understand. I thought all of them were from Fort Hood. Oh, Anna Bees, well, I'm glad I could help you straighten it out. Tumwater is nasty. Fred, you're familiar with the area. Tumwater is kind of part of Olympia. So Olympia, Lacey, and Tumwater are three small cities, I guess you could call them, that are all like one. And, Olympia is the state capital, but it's tiny. And it used to be so not fancy. It's gotten kind of fancy now. Lacey is newer and nicer. That's a little bit north of Olympia. And then Tumwater is kind of south of Olympia, and it's towards Aberdeen, which is another armpit. Aberdeen is where Kurt Cobain is from. And, it's sad to call these places armpits, but I'm just being frank. I think that people that are from these areas wouldn't feel insulted. Like they'd probably say the same thing. And, there's beauty wherever you are, you can find it. One of the problems with Tumwater is you don't really get a view of any of the Olympic Mountains or Mount Hood or Mount Rainier from there. It's the Puget Sound is so intricate. So different parts of Olympia, you can get views of all those things. And different parts of Lacey, you can get all those things. And Tumwater's not really on the water. It's not really on the Puget Sound, whereas Olympia is on the Puget Sound and Lacey is also on the Puget Sound. So Tumwater's inland a little bit. It probably has the name from the rivers or something. I'm not sure. But a lot of it gets really muddy there. Like in Olympia, you've actually got a beautiful area called Mud Bay that when I lived in Olympia, Mud Bay was considered nice, but now it's really nice. And there's a lot of great blue herons that live in Mud Bay. But when the tide goes out in the Puget Sound, it is mud. I mean, it's nasty mud. And if you're not familiar and you ever go visit Alaska, you need to know that, because the same thing happens in Alaska when the tide goes out. And then in Alaska, it's even worse mud. It's like quicksand. And tourists that don't know it will try to go for a walk on the beach and sink. And there's nothing that anybody can do to save them. Like they can't send any rescue out there. Like you are just hosed. So just because you see what looks like a nice beach when you're driving on the coast in Alaska, don't you dare try to go for a walk on it unless you talk to some locals first. And they don't put signs out. Like that blew my mind when I was up there visiting. I was like, so they just want the tourists to die? Is that it? Like, why would they not put signs out? Tacoma is nasty. It is nasty. And you know, Tacoma was built as the red light district for Seattle, so that they wouldn't have to have a red light district in Seattle, which they kind of did. South Seattle. What do you call that area? There's a better name for it than South Seattle. South Park? No, it's like down where the Kingdom used to be. It's like Georgetown or something like that, right? Used to know all this stuff when I was from there. South Seattle neighborhood. I think it's Georgetown. Yeah, Georgetown. Wow, I nailed it. Woohoo! Brain works. So yeah, there's Georgetown, there's South Park. Those were the bad areas of Seattle. West Seattle was kind of a ghetto, but now it's all fancy. Like I was telling you guys the other day, Ballard was not really a ghetto. It was just kind of dorky, but now it's all hip and cool, gentrified. Anyway, Tacoma, I have a friend who moved there because she could afford a really nice house in a really nice neighborhood, and it's awesome. But that's near the university that's in Tacoma. Dang, what is that? Pacific Northwest University or something like that. Okay, back to the phubbing. What is the university in northern Tacoma? In by the zoo, right? Pacific Lutheran is the one that's that I mentioned earlier. University Place Apartments. So yeah, that's the area that she was in, University Place. University of Puget Sound. Oh, I'm so glad I looked. Yeah, it's all coming back to me now. UPS. So it's like the same as like, you know, United Parcel Services, but UPS is a really good college that's right in the northern part of Tacoma. And, you know, Tacoma was so cheap. Like that's where Dale Chihuly has his warehouse, his manufacturing, his college, because all that Chihuly glass that you see all over the country, big bucks. And he kind of revived downtown Tacoma single-handedly, in a sense, by making the Chihuly Glass Institute, or whatever they call it, right there on the water in downtown Tacoma, because it was so inexpensive. Like nobody wanted to be in Tacoma. And then anyway, enough of a history lesson. I don't miss it. Isn't that funny? Like I would have thought that I would have missed it a lot, but I don't. It was a nice place to call home temporarily. I mean, beautiful. I loved my experience in Washington State. And we did move back there after I finished graduate school in San Francisco. And I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. My husband is born and raised in Washington State. So it's always got a place in our hearts, but I don't think we'll ever move back there. There's a lot to not like about it, and that was before all the changes that have come over the last 15 years, like the soaring prices of housing. The cost of living is outrageous. The number of homeless is outrageous. There was just too much growth in that area that was unmanaged. And I feel like such an old fart to say that, but it's true. It was like the economy was booming, the population was booming, the whole area was booming, and new areas were being built, subdivisions and things like this, without infrastructure, like without rules, without checks and balances. I mean, really dangerous, like lots of really dangerous things. And it's probably one of the youngest of the continental US states. So it's just not as what's the word? It's not as evolved and not as stable as like the East Coast or even California. And I grew up on the East Coast in California and Ohio, so I was shocked when I moved there in the late 80s that there wasn't that much development. The things that were built were very flimsy. I mean, honestly, Alaska's like that too. I mean, flimsy because everything's so expensive in Alaska, but they have to build it sturdy so that you survive the Alaska weather. But there's not a lot of nice architecture in Alaska. There's not a lot of nice architecture in Washington State either. At least there wasn't back in the 80s. It's changed a lot because of like Starbucks. I mean, we always had Boeing, but Starbucks took off, Microsoft took off, Amazon started there. A lot of like big money all came in at once, which takes us over to Hollywood, the bank robber who went to my college in Olympia, Washington, Evergreen State College. He got kicked out of school for cooking meth in the lab. And then he built this giant tree house in Olympia, like a palace. I think it was like 5 stories. And nobody knew where he got his money. And he was robbing banks because he realized, like, with the boom in the economy there, that all of these banks had so much cash. And again, the lack of infrastructure, he just swooped in. You guys have heard stories about Hollywood, the bank robber. I didn't know him personally, but Evergreen's such a small school. I knew people that knew him. And if I watch one of the documentaries about him, I see a lot of people that I knew in the documentaries. And I'm just like, oh man, crazy, crazy. Anyway, I'm just rambling, you guys. It's nice just to hang out and talk. Have I been on for like 50 minutes? Should we get into some meat and potatoes of something? Let me just knock some stuff down. What WTF? Come on. My cute little gate and fence. And, this is why I try to do the less is more thing, so I'm not knocking things down, but I can't not pick up my adorable little gate and fence and fix it right away, because otherwise, if I end up forgetting and stepping on it, not only will it hurt my foot, it'll also get ruined, and we can't have that. This thing is amazing quality. It's like probably that Department 56 brand, I'm not sure, but it's like wrought iron. It's very cool, and I had it right there. Let's see if I put it back exactly the way it was, and then I don't touch it, and then I catch up with my friends here. Duty bean to Aberdeen long ago, because sweet Kurt. Yeah, Aberdeen is so proud of Kurt Cobain. It just makes me want to cry. They put on their sign when you drive in there. This is cute. You guys, are you ready? I get so emotional. Come as you are. That's what it says on the Aberdeen sign when you drive in. And yeah, the thing that is unfortunate about Aberdeen is that it was a logging city. So by the time I moved there in 1987, logging was like over and done with. And so that city was extremely economically depressed, which only compounded with the fact that where it is geographically, um, Gray's Harbor is right next to it, and it's called Gray's Harbor because it's always gray there. So Aberdeen is like always gray and economically depressed. So, um, they were so proud of Kurt Cobain, so freaking proud. Come as you are. It's very cute. And I'm sure he has lots of family still there. And what a brilliant kid he was. If you guys haven't watched that movie, not Mayhem. What is that movie about Kurt Cobain's life? It is something Mayhem, isn't it? Kurt Cobain documentary. Montage of Heck. I said mayhem because I was remembering the M from montage and I was remembering the idea of heck. So Kurt Cobain Montage of Heck is a great documentary. It came out in 2015. That's really just about his life story from the time he was born up until everything went haywire. So it doesn't get into that tragedy, but his life was pretty tragic before Courtney Love got involved and made it 1,000 times worse, in my opinion. My niece went to college in Tacoma, I think. So yeah, she might have gone to UPS or Pacific Lutheran University. There's other schools there too, but those are the two most prestigious ones. This was 20 years ago. LOL. I know 20 years ago is nothing. It was a blink of an eye. I mean, I moved out on my own to go to school in Olympia, Washington when I was 20 in 1987. And I just can't believe, what is that, 37 years ago? That is so wild. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago. But yeah, and then I met my husband a few years later, like 34 years ago. It's mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. Maybe she went to college in Seattle but lived in Tacoma. Yeah, so Seattle has obviously the University of Washington and has the Art Institute. There's a few really good schools in Seattle too, and then you've got Western Washington University up in Bellingham. And I think there's other schools up in Bellingham. Anyway, University of Puget Sound and Pacific Lutheran University and University of Washington are probably the most prestigious in that area. It's a popular place to live and a popular place to go to school, especially now. I mean, back when I went there, it wasn't that popular. It was when it was just starting to become the trend in 87. And then by the time Nirvana got signed on in like 90, and Beck was living in, the band Beck and the singer Beck, the songwriter, he was living in Olympia, Washington. Kurt Cobain and Nirvana, they were also living in Olympia, Washington, although they didn't tell anybody that. They pretended that they lived in Seattle to be like a cool Seattle band. But that was about 1990. And then that was when my sister had moved out there from the East Coast. And how many people did they have moving to Seattle a day back then in around 1990? I think it was like 5,000 a day were moving to King County. I mean, it was off the chain crazy. And yeah, the infrastructure was just not able to keep up. Not at all. Such a beautiful place, and it was relatively affordable, but it's not anymore. Then you had that movie Sleepless in Seattle, and then it got super trendy. It was already super trendy. And then that movie really kind of fouled things up. There were just like way too many people trying to live in houseboats on the lakes. And, you used to be able to live in a houseboat on the lake for cheap. That's why people did it, was because it was inexpensive. And then it became like super expensive. Let's see. Mount Wilson Observatory has flames licking the building towers. Is Mount Wilson Observatory different than the Griffith Observatory, or is it one and the same? I'm not familiar with that one, Billy. Does anyone know how the LA fires started? So I started to talk about that with those fires that were in the median on I-5 the last time I was in Los Angeles. And I know, like with the Paradise fires, was that the one that they called the campfires? Like, you know, sometimes it's like literally somebody flicking a cigarette out their window that starts a fire, and you know, they might not even know that they were the one that started the fire. But yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I don't want to speculate about lasers and stuff like that. I really don't. I mean, if that stuff becomes relevant, then fine. But, you know, I'm still convinced that that was what was going on with Lahaina. But, you know, with all these channels going so crazy with the Sean Ryan thing, I was saying yesterday that I didn't buy the whole Sean Ryan show information about the email and all this. And I watched the newest Brush Junkie video after my live yesterday, and I couldn't watch it. It was about Sean Ryan and his show and all this stuff. And I was trying to force myself. I was like, just do it, just power through. And I could barely get through like 15 or 20 minutes. Like, to me, it's just absolute hogwash. And the guy's just an egomaniac. He's like a retired military dude who just thinks he's like all that in a bag of chips. Like, I'm a white dude. Listen to what I say. Everybody shut up. The white dude is talking. Duh. And that's the same thing with the guy who says he got the email from Matt Leivelsberger. And they say that they validated the email, that yes, it's a real email, and yes, it came from his device, but that does not mean it came from him. We are in the time of artificial intelligence. We're in the time of like anybody can pick up your phone and text people and pretend that they're you. The whole thing is just nuts. And then when I was reading through the comments on Brush Junkie's video, there were other people saying that that they had no faith in Sean Ryan either, and they were naming this other channel whose name I tried to write down, and they were just saying that these are just like attention whores that just go make shit up, like Chronicles of Olivia. I don't like to even mention the names of those channels. I like to just avoid those channels because we know that they're out there. But what's sad is when people think that they're valid. And just because Sean Ryan's channel was being talked about in mainstream media, that doesn't make it valid. I mean, look at some of the channels that have gotten attention from mainstream media. The one that I just mentioned, the Chronicles one, and some others I don't want to mention because I don't want to be like dissing on people. But when I think people are just freaking wrong and that they're doing it intentionally, like the channels that I've just mentioned, I will name them. And if I'm wrong and I find out that I'm wrong, I will apologize profusely. But I'm just trying to not get gaslit, and I'm trying to help anybody else that doesn't want to be gaslit to not be gaslit with me. And let me just, this other name of this other channel, did I write it on this one maybe? I got my 2 notebooks just to keep myself extra confused. So Sarah Adams is the ex-CIA personnel who says all this crazy stuff. And as soon as I saw her on Sean Adams, that was the one that Christina Randall was mentioning, I was just like, oh, good Lord, no. Like, who are these people? Like, crazy, crazy. And no, I'm not buying it. Not buying it. And I really respect Brush Junkie, but I'm afraid she's gotten sucked into some crap. That's what my opinion is. I'm curious your guys' opinion, because you guys are the ones that always keep me on task. So let me look up Brush Junkie real quick. Her video from yesterday is called Sean Ryan Reveals the Authentic Cybertruck Bomb.
Thanks to Remarkable for partnering on this video.
Sean Ryan reveals the authentic Cybertruck bomber story. Ooh. Sean dives deep into the mystery, separating fact from fiction. I think he is all full of fiction, in my humble opinion. But this other content creator, somebody said, look up him and this other content creator, and you'll see that they're just chameleons that will say whatever they can to get so somebody put in her comment section, people are saying you're a psyop. And yeah, I'm wondering now, because she's like all about makeup brushes, and I thought she was good. But so one person says Sean Ryan is controlled op. Come on, y'all. What media was this posted on? These guys don't know shite. You're better than this, Tracy. Focus on what you know. I'm so glad I'm reading these comments. And somebody commented to that comment, she's just learning. Same with Shane. Give them time, although I'm about to move on if they are unable to focus, as you say. Oh, I'm so glad I'm not the only one. So I don't always take the time to read comments, but it is so good when you do, right? I was so glad that I read some yesterday, because so this person commented right away saying, I'll pass on watching this one. Sean Ryan is a controlled opposition, just like Alex Jones fooled many of you. Sean is doing the same. Dang. Yes, you guys, let's pay attention to this. Have you heard of Billy Carson? Put Billy and Sean in your search engine. Birds of a feather play together. Someone says, I've heard the same. Someone else, me, says this is in line with my take on this too. Somebody else says, thank you, I'm not wrong about this, as a friend of mine is actually going to spend thousands on this con, Billy Carson. It led me to Sean Ryan, where I then went to put 2 and 2 together. Oh, somebody tagged me and said, thanks. People don't realize how we get played, but the players out all the time. Like I mentioned, Alex Jones, he is just one being controlled, so the people trust all he says. Then they, what are his pronouns? No, I'm just kidding. Then they sneak in the lies, and bam, it's unbelievable because he is on our side, so they think. And then somebody says, really, specifically, how do you know he's controlled opposition? Give me one solid piece of conjecture and, more importantly, evidence to back this accusation. This is the challenge. It is so easy to play devil's advocate with nothing to back up this statement. See, I'm thinking this person is a plant. One person cites commentary without evidence, and then others nod their heads in blind agreement to keep up with the herd. Oh yes, he is controlled opposition. Bongino and Tucker have also been called controlled opposition. Tucker's just plain effing crazy, just like Megan, what's her name? Megan Kelly. Those two are freaking insane. Because they're good looking is no reason to look past that they're stupid and crazy. Come on. And others too. Hell, anyone can make that list. I trust my gut and my life experience in both print and media with the DOD. I have a strong BS meter, and I'm calling this comment BS. I will stand resolute to say Sean is highly credible. I call BS on this freak. He listens more than he speaks. He poses well-positioned and open-ended questions. He makes, my God, could they go on anymore? Too long, didn't read. And then this is somebody responded to that saying, where's your proof? Absolutely. There's a ton of fake truthers online. I've been busting them left and right. There is always this energy they give off, always a red flag for me. Um, I'd say one red flag, I'm going to put this in here right now. One red flag is that they have been sought out. Like, I can't even remember the guy who said he got the email, but he said that he was sought out by Matthew Liversberger. Matthew Liversberger sent him this email on the 30th or the 30, yeah, the 30th. And so they're like, well, how could we have faked that? Oh, it's like, you can fake anything. Come on, especially if you're military and you've got access to that stuff and the knowledge, is that they have um, and this is what you really have to ask yourself. I want to put this in here so I don't forget. Maybe I'll go back and add to it later. I said, one is mistyped. One red flag is that they have been sought out by the informant and no one else has, right? That's one red flag. But what was I going to say? The other thing about that too. And then they bring it to the streets of YouTube. Like, why would you bring it to the streets of YouTube? If you were sought out and nobody else had, wouldn't you just go directly to Homeland Security and keep your effing mouth shut, especially if you're military background? Like, no, nobody with those backgrounds is going to go out onto the streets of YouTube. When you come from a career like that, you simply can't. It puts you in danger. It puts everybody in danger. It's like the most unprofessional crap in the world. I mean, that's my opinion anyway. So let me see what else you guys say. I'm glad I looked at those freaking comments. And then I told you the guy's name was Carson. So I looked him up. He's like a very handsome black man that looks like he has a lot of money from scamming a lot of people. Where were we? I think the last one I read was, does anyone know how the LA fires started? Edmonds and Arlington were nice. Edmonds is very nice. That's like north of Seattle. And then there's the ferry that is just north of Edmonds. Kingston is nice, where the ferry goes to across the water. It's an adorable little town. Arlington is nice. Arlington is where my husband gained his rookie law enforcement experience. And it's a rough town. It looks nice because it's rural, but it's like Breaking Bad. Everybody's like cooking meth in their trailer and dying. Yeah. It's a small town too. So yeah, Arlington is pretty. It's near La Conner, which is tulip country. Tulip country is freaking amazing. What is that town right next to Edmonds with a funny name that is so pretty, that looks out over across Whidbey Island, right? And so the ferry that goes to Whidbey Island is in the town just north of Edmonds. Dang it. ferry to Whidbey Island. The name of that town, Langley. Mukilteo is the town, I think, that the ferry goes from Mukilteo to Langley. Anyway, anyone who hasn't been there and you want to go there, I'd say the most spectacular part of the entire state of Washington is probably the San Juan Islands. The Olympic National Forest is also incredibly cool. And there's a ton of other places that are incredibly cool, but the San Juan Islands are a must see. I mean, people go there from everywhere in the world. And people go up to Hurricane Ridge and the Olympic Mountains from everywhere in the world too. Let's see. So thanks for your comment. Yeah, Edmonds and Arlington. So, we lived in Kitsap County, and then we lived in Ballard, and then we lived in Kirkland, and then we bought our house up in Marysville, and then we moved back to Ohio. It seems they think Santa Ana winds spread the embers, but first fire, I don't know. Right. And it could be anything. I mean, it can be a spark, it can be a cigarette butt, it can be anything at all. Last days. Thank you, Billy, darling. Last days with Elsa Argento. I don't know what that is. Mount Wilson Observatory, let's see, is different from Griffith Observatory, it seems. How old is his daughter now? Whose daughter? Asla Argentino? I don't know who that is. She's 32, married to Riley Hawk. I haven't heard from my daughter in several days, so I texted her last night. I made her send me a selfie because I wanted to be sure it was her. I'm not getting along with her husband and his family. Oh, Anna Bees, that's scary. I am so sorry that it's that rough. Thank you, Billy, darling. You're welcome, Sherry. I've always thought Brush Junkie was way out there. Well, see, I thought she was so good when she started with the Lahaina fires. I thought she was like one of the only truth tellers. But now I kind of think that she has a good heart and that she's just been had. That's what I think. I think she's a smart woman. She lives in Los Angeles, so she's getting affected by these fires, but yet she's putting up videos about this crazy Sean Ryan lowlife scumbag, in my opinion. Sorry to hear Anna Bees. Thank you, Sherry. Please say a prayer for her. She has MS and I worry so much. Oh my goodness. Last night they said someone was burning something in their backyard and winds took it away. Dang. Oh my goodness. That is so sad if it was started like that, if it was so preventable. That's too much praise for Sean. Hopefully no arson. It's like Elon pretending to be another person and taking up for himself. LOL. So I told this crazy story yesterday about a police chief who pretended that he made a KKK wizard stand down, but really he was the one standing down. And he was doing it all for show to make himself look like a hero because he's an attention whore and never gets enough attention. And the whole reason I was telling that story is because that police chief was behind the entire thing with the KKK alleged wizard. And like, it was all fabricated. And my thought is that the person behind the Trump Hotel chain and the person behind the Tesla Cybertruck model, that those guys cooked up this plan to get all this attention and distraction. And it went sideways, that they were like, oh, this will be a great advertisement with the Tesla on fire in front of the Trump Hotel, and we're indestructible, and ain't nobody can blow us up. And then Elon can swoop in and help them with unlocking the Cybertruck that locks up when it explodes. Like the whole thing locks up. So he had to like go there personally to unlock it or something crazy like that, allegedly. And then, and right away he was like, yeah, my truck is so awesome. It contained the explosion. Otherwise the whole hotel could have gone down. It could have been like Oklahoma City, and we could have had so many injured and deceased, and we didn't because my truck is so awesome. And then there was more advertising too, but then it was a lot like the guy with the owner of the backpack company with Luigi Mangione, because then Elon was divulging that he'll give away all of your private information that he has on you because you bought a Tesla from his company. So all your information is his. And this is all about information. I mean, when he was offering people the $1 million prizes to like register to vote, that was all so he could get their information, I think, so that he could hack the election. And, that's the whole thing with TikTok, is that China's getting everybody's information so that they can hack everything. So I think that the whole thing with the Cybertruck and the hotel was supposed to be an advertisement, and it's just gone all kinds of sideways and south. And that there has Tenacious D said anything about that explosion? Because I haven't heard him say anything. I don't watch him nonstop, but I do pay attention. I don't think he said anything about the explosion in front of his hotel. And that's suspicious by itself. Brush junkie is way out there. Well, Annabes, you might be miles ahead of me. Because, yeah, it's only been more recently that I've been like, come on, Tracy, clean it up. Let's say prayers for Annabes' daughter. That is really frightening. And Elon pretending to be another person and taking up for himself, LOL. Oh, did he do that? I mean, I wouldn't put anything past these idiots. He's really ugly. I mean, he's ugly on the inside, but he's just fugly. And, like he's got no personality. I don't want to pick on him, but man, he's ruining our freaking planet single-handedly. Like, I hope he lands his butt in jail so he can quit ruining everything. Seriously. San Padre Island is California, right? San Padre Island. Domino time again. LOL. Annie Ruler, are you saying that you only turn my lives on when you're so bored with your dominoes that you need to have this in the background? Are we talking Texas? I'm confused. Is San Pedro Island Texas or California? I'm not familiar, but it rings a bell. It might be off the coast of Texas, right? I mean, in the Gulf of America. OMG. Bonus son in Burbank, packed and almost left. Win, died, and stayed. Woo. Wow. Bonus son, Annie Ruler. Oh, crazy. How are you, my dear? One ferry is right in Edmonds. We live 2 blocks from it. In Arlington, we live southwest side, adjacent to the airport. Arlington, Washington State Airport. I'm not even familiar with the airport up there. My husband would be, because he rode in a lot of small planes for doing surveys for the Department of Fish and Wildlife, but I don't think I ever was involved in any of that. I was invited to fly on those flights, but I get very motion sick. I hate small planes. Hate them, hate them, hate them. Hearing drones with fires starting. Yeah. Asia Argento is an actress that Kurt Cobain dated. Oh, I don't know Asia Argento. You know, the rumor that I believe is that Kurt Cobain was dating Kristen Pfaff at the end of his existence. He had bought 2 plane tickets to go somewhere a few days before he passed away, or even just like a day or two before he passed away. And I think that the tickets were for him and Kristen Pfaff. And I think that that's why she also passed away a few months later. He passed away, I think, in April of 94, I think, right? And then she passed away in June of 94. I think he might have passed away in March of 94, but I'm pretty sure she passed away 4 months later. So March, April, May, June, might have been July, but Courtney Love's birthday is in July, I think. And it seems like a lot of these female rock stars that were threatening competition to her all passed away right around her birthday in 1992, 1993, and 1994. That was Stephanie Sargent from 7 Year Bitch, Mia Zapata from the Gits, and then Kristen Pfaff from her own band, Hole, because Kristen Pfaff quit the band and was moving back to Minneapolis, where she was from. And they were all beautiful, and they were all like seriously talented, like not just as punk rockers, but they could all like play classical too. Like they all knew music, and they were just raw punk rock queens. Anyway, let's see. My opinions are mine and don't reflect this channel. Disclaimer, Billy darling, you're so cute. Thank you, my dear. Asia Argento, when did he date that person? And yeah, I'll look her up. There was another woman that he dated and lived with in Olympia that he broke up with right before he got together with Courtney. And that woman, I think, really allowed him to kind of mooch off of her, but in a good way, because he was able to write most of his amazing songs when he was living with her, because she worked hard. She paid all the bills. She probably did all the cooking and cleaning. He should have stayed with her. Imagine the music that we would have if he stayed with her. Oh, man. Argento's movie Scarlet Diva is about Kurt Cobain. Oh, I got to write that down. I love Kurt Cobain movies. I've told you guys a bunch about Soaked in Bleach. Scarlet Diva, I've never heard of that one. But, you know, I really was not a Kurt Cobain fan at all until I saw Montage of Heck, and all of a sudden I understood where he was coming from. I never understood him. I thought he was just kind of a weirdo. And then understanding where he came from gave me such an appreciation for all of his work. And he was such an amazing artist, not just music, but visual artist too. And just a cool cat, you know. Unfortunate that he hooked up with that baby mama. Very unfortunate. What a nightmare. So yeah, we've been on for almost an hour and a half. Let me talk for a moment about the whole thing with the explosion in front of the Trump Hotel with the Cybertruck is kind of a metaphor for the exploding civil wars between the loyalists of Trump and Musk and the rest of us, right? So there's security cams in Teslas, right? Aren't Teslas like loaded with security cams? Because now Musk is saying that he doesn't have any security cams in those vehicles that would have recorded anything from the explosion. But there would have been security cams in that Cybertruck all the way up until it was turned off. And then the cameras allegedly would be turned back on from the jarring of the explosion. So I think he's lying. I think that there's a lot of information that they're not wanting to share because it would reveal their lies. In my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. I know I'm saying some pretty severe stuff. My channel's like this big. So unless somebody with a big channel takes my idea and runs with it, nobody's going to hear about it anyway. But I have a feeling that that's where all this crap is going. I love Nirvana from the very first time I heard them. See, the first time I heard them was when they played at Evergreen and they sounded like garbage because Kurt was too drunk to walk. So that really painted my view of them for a couple of decades. And also, I've told you guys this before because Beck, I loved so much. And Beck was such a different kind of music. Wasn't really considered grunge, but it was considered like a deconstruction movement of rock and roll music. Like he deconstructed rock and roll music and then he put it back together the way he wanted to do it. And he's freaking brilliant. I love Beck. And I love Kurt Cobain too. But, they kind of started at the same time in the same place and they both took off with a fury. And I don't think it was legal to be a fan of both. I think you had to pick your side, which is sort of what I've heard about Elvis Presley and the Rolling Stones back in the day, that you couldn't be a fan of both. It was one or the other. And I was just like, wait, what? Because as a teenager, when I learned that, I was like, that doesn't even make sense. But now I get it. So, Teslas are loaded in them. Well, and I would think especially the Cybertrucks. So yeah, where's all that freaking footage? They're just looking at it. They're editing it. They're redacting it. I mean, even the footage of Matt Leibelsberger in the front seat pulling into the valet parking area, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's him. Like that could so easily be somebody that looks like him. That could so easily be AI. But, the story is that he pulled into the Horseshoe in front of the Trump Hotel in Vegas at about 7:30 and he just did a drive-through. And then he came back about an hour later, parked right there at the valet by the door. And then a few minutes later was when it blew up. And there was like an explosion. But the gun that they say that he pew-pewed himself with is like apparently the crappiest quality gun you can find anywhere. I don't know, like bazooka gum. Like, you send in your little bazooka gum comics and get your little gun. I mean, I don't know guns. I could talk to my in-house gun expert about it, but, that whole thing that I think Sean Ryan and the email, all that is getting at is that Matt Leibelsberger was or is a whistleblower for this Jacob's Ladder kind of thing at Fort Hood, Fort Liberty in North Carolina. This Project Paperclip Artichoke, Mind Control, MK Ultra. I like MC Ultra better. But yeah, it just sounds like such effery. Like I really think that what is going on here is that Musk and Tenacious D stewed up this plan to draw attention to their brands, and it's gone sideways and south, and they're trying to they're panicked. They're trying to clean it up. So that's the point of this whole video. That's what I'm trying to say. And maybe I'll read what you guys are saying, and then we can wrap it up, because it's been about 90 minutes. And I don't want my videos to be too long. I want them to be interesting. I want people to watch them. But at the same time, I know you have to be patient to watch my videos, because, you know, I'm just like unable to remember the name of anything and having to Google everything, and unable to remember my old stomping ground. I'm sorry if it's annoying. I think for some people it's probably really annoying and they're just going to scroll and roll. And for other people, they enjoy it because it's like we're all just hanging out together, which is what I'm going for. I'm going for the we're just hanging out together. Like, this whole YouTube thing is such a freaking crock anyway. I mean, I love the video therapy that I'm doing, but I am so not down with the algorithm crap and the fake news crap and the switch and bait crap, bait and switch, you know. I mean, all the things that you're supposed to do to try to become a successful YouTuber is just bullshit. Like, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to sell out? Like, no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing, why would you want to do anything less than be real, be yourself, be authentic, and help other people? I mean, I hope I'm helping somebody other than just myself, because it's nice to get outside of yourself. It really is. So I appreciate you guys being here with me. Billy says, Bleach is my fave album. Is that the first? I like Nevermind, and I like In Utero. Didn't they only have like 3? Because In Utero came out September before Kurt passed away. In Utero came out 3 months after Mia Zapata passed away. And for those of you that don't know, Mia Zapata was the lead singer for the Gits, and they were the next big thing. They had just been signed. It was the night before they were flying to New York City for their MTV debut at either Madison Square Gardens or Radio City Music Hall. It was summer, so it was probably Madison Square Gardens, but I don't remember. And I was living in Portland at the time, but I knew a lot of people who knew Mia. But she was unalived by somebody allegedly that didn't know her. It took 10 years for them to solve her case. Jesus Mendoza or something like that. I don't even like to say his name. He's just like Satan. But I think he was hired. And what he did with her, other than violate her and take her life, was and please, trigger warning. A lot of people don't know this. It's not advertised. He staged her body in the middle of the street on Yesler Avenue in the exact same position as what the cover of In Utero looked like when it came out a couple of months later. And trigger warning again, he gave her a hysterectomy. Trigger warning again, he ripped her insides out. He also bit her breasts off. So sorry. I'm so sorry. But people need to know this stuff, because that's never been advertised. And a couple years ago, when I realized that she was posed like a crucifix with that, what I just described, I don't want to say it again, it's disgusting, that when I put 2 and 2 together and realized that that was the cover of In Utero that came out a couple of months later, I was like, I already had my theory, but that was like the nail in the coffin. So I think that that's an important point, and I'm curious what you guys think. I'll read a few comments and then we can wrap it up. It's horrifying, isn't it? I'm so sorry. And anybody who doesn't know, Mia Zapata was considered like, Joan Jett tried to fill in for her after her life was taken. Pearl Jam did benefit concerts to raise money for a PI to help solve that case. Nirvana did benefit concerts. It really burned somebody up who was sleeping with the coroner. And the coroner was a punk rock aficionado, and the coroner was very unprofessional and called, I think it was Steve Moriarty from the Gits, and said, "We've got your girl here," like before anybody knew anything. And Steve was just like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think we have your girl here." And like nobody even knew that she was missing yet. That guy. Unbelievable. So the person that he was sleeping with, and he was the one who did the autopsies for Kurt, Kristen, Stephanie, and Mia. That same person that he was sleeping with was allegedly sleeping with the chief of the Seattle Police Department too. And all of this happened in like the same 2-block area on Capitol Hill. So it was all the same jurisdiction. Oh, my head hurts. I gotta go now. I mean, this is stuff that I always want to say that I don't, because I don't want to target on my back. So, but people need to know. People need to know. Yeah. I think people need to know. I think it's a thing. I don't think it's my imagination. I think you are correct about the Tesla truck and Trump Tower. See, I wish that I was wrong, because it's such a mind F. Like, why would these rich, powerful men be such freaking toddlers that they mess with mainstream media, that they mess with the news, that they distract the public, that they're just so effing crazy attention whores? Like, why can't they help people? MC Ultra, yeah. Oh, that reminded me. I did look at your thumbnail from the other day with Kylie. It was very good. Oh, thank you, Anna Bees. When I made that the night before last, because, I usually make my thumbnails after the video, I was just like, how come I never did this before? How come I never put all those crazy pictures of her in the black dress with the red sash, all those like Photoshop pictures with the crazy Weekend at Bernie, sleepy pictures? How come I never had them all together? Or I don't think I even had 2 of them together. It was like one family and the other family. And so then I put them all on that same thumbnail, because I don't usually like to put 8 photographs on a thumbnail. I usually like to put just one so that it's a nice big image and you can see it better. When it's these little tiny images, if you're looking on your phone, it's going to be really hard to tell what's what. But thank you. I appreciate that, because I thought it was kind of genius, especially with that other one where I had written on there with the white letters, why will no one tell the truth for Kylie? Because we know nobody's telling the truth for Kylie. That's not speculation. That's not theory. That's not conspiracy theory. That is my opinion, that no one has told the slightest bit of truth for Kylie. And I say, screw them all. They're all going to hell. Oh, and I appreciate you, my dear. Bye-bye, Fred. Have a great day. Yeah, and we'll get signed off here. We love you, Jazz. Sherry, you're so sweet. See, I just need a little bit of encouragement, and then I can keep going with my crazy-ass theories. Who did this nipple biting? I don't like to say his name. He died in prison a couple years ago. He's the guy, I think he was paid $50,000 to take Mia Zapata out. And I think his first name is Jesus, spelled like Jesus. And his last name is like Mendoza or something. It makes me cringe. I can't say it without puking. Let's see. Killer of Mia Zapata. I mean, they've done a lot of documentaries on Mia Zapata and the Gits. So his name is Jesus Mezquia, Mezquia, a man with no apparent connection to Zapata, but the way she was handled was very personal and I won't get into it. Anyway, he was convicted like 10 years later, and then he passed away in 2021, allegedly from COVID. But I think he knew too much and he had to go. But it could have been from COVID. It could have been both, right? Could have been neither. Could have been something completely secret. Let's see. So yeah, it was 10 years after she passed away. So she passed away in 93. Stephanie Sargent was 92. Kristen Pfaff and Kurt Cobain were 94. But Stephanie Sargent, Mia Zapata, and Kristen Pfaff were all very close to the birthday of the lead singer for Hole. So, I've said too much. Now I gotta go. Yeah. So yeah, that Annie Ruler, that's how they had his DNA. So that was how they finally nailed him 10 years later, was with a DNA match when he got his DNA put into the system from Grand Theft Auto when he was living in Miami, and then they nailed him. So people think that they had his DNA from the violation, but they had his DNA from the saliva. Sorry. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. Yeah, it was so freaking terrible. It still is so terrible. It's absolutely horrible. She was just a sweet young kid. Everybody loved Mia. She was so nice, even though she was like this badass punk rocker. She was really shy and humble, and everybody loved her. Like and sub up, y'all. Liked and shared. Thanks, you guys. Love and light. Have a fabulous afternoon. Let's pray for the folks in Southern California with the fires. Let's pray for the Carters with losing their patriarch. Let's pray for our country getting mind scrambled by the MK Ultra. And let's not fall for this shit. And let's call these rat bastards out when they come out onto the streets of YouTube and try to kick all of us around. Like, screw them all. Screw them all. Truth to power. So I think that's it. Thanks so much. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. So yeah, hopefully tomorrow. It was really hard getting through the holidays with the house being so full and trying to make videos. And now that we're done with the holidays, we've had all these snow days and all these sick family members. So it's still been challenging, but I'm really happy to be getting the videos out. And I got my green light switched out so that it won't keep dying before the end of the video. Because don't you just love the chakra tower? Although these are getting rough. The red and the orange, the orange is almost redder than the red, and the red is almost oranger than the orange. So I got to get that figured out. But for the most part, I'm just loving my set, and I'm loving you guys. So thanks a million. Have a great day, everyone. Prayers for all. And yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Love and light. Drink your water, eat your protein, eat your produce. Thanks so much for being here, you guys.